Hey everyone, Rachel Jensen here, broker owner of Luna Realty Belize in the beautiful country of Belize. We are in the inbox today, which is where we answer questions that have been asked by folks like you about Belize, about the real estate industry here, and just questions that perhaps they're thinking about as they look at relocating here. So today's question is from Leroy, and he said, "Can I open a bank account in Belize as a foreigner?" And this is a really great question, and one that, quite frankly, I don't think you have to jump into as you decide to buy or own real estate here in Belize. I know personally, I opened a bank account here maybe after about 10 years of living in Belize, and after getting my residency card, I did find it to be a lot easier to get business done, to open bank accounts, to do all that as a resident versus a non-resident, right? Somebody who was here on my work permit. But I will say it's not impossible to get it done. It just takes a lot of time and a lot of patience. Here in Belize, it is still very much so you are going to the bank in person, at least with the local bank accounts. You have to go to the bank in person. You have to have your interview. You have to drop off documents, hard copy documents. So things just take time here. It's not uncommon for there to be a queue or a line. You could be at the bank all day. And quite frankly, I would recommend that you just plan to be at the bank for a whole day and maybe even the following day because it just takes time to get things done. But let me talk to you a little bit more about the banks, then we can talk a little bit more about the process. So in Belize, there are a few different banks, local banks that people who are relocating to Belize or spending significant time here or opening a business in Belize that they tend to work with. The two most popular local banks are Atlantic Bank and Belize Bank. Now, when I say local bank, it means that the currency that they're working with or dealing in is Belize dollars. So I know a lot of times people want to open up a local bank account when they're relocating here to pay bills and just have access to Belize dollars. I would say you don't have to rush into that. And the reason I say that is because you can pay your utilities online. So water, electricity, internet, cable, all of that can be paid online with a US credit card or Canadian credit card or whatever kind of credit card you have. That can just be paid directly there by inputting your card information. You can even go physically to the branches if you want to pay with cash. I know some people have done that. Or if you do want to be banking locally because you want to be able to withdraw Belize dollar cash, what you can do is get an ATM card that's connected to your account in your home country and find a debit card that does not have any foreign account fees, foreign transaction fees, or foreign ATM fees. Charles Schwab, I know, is one of the most popular for that, where you can get a Charles Schwab debit card. You can go to the ATM and then take out the cash without any fees. So they'll tend to refund you if you are charged any fees from that ATM. So a lot of people do tend to do that too. And then also, if you're building a house or something along those lines and your contractor does not have a US dollar account, typically what you can do is you can send your US dollars to their local Belize account. Now, there will be some exchange fees and whatnot, but that is an option as well. And I wouldn't really recommend having a ton of Belize dollars. It's very hard to then convert Belize dollars to US dollars if you ever want to leave Belize, or if you just have ample Belize dollars and need more US dollars. Everything has to go through the central bank here, and you have to get central bank approval when you're doing big currency conversions like that, or just generally even currency conversions. So it's not necessarily an easy peasy sort of transfer to get the Belize dollars out of the country and into a different currency. So those are the two local banks, Atlantic Bank and Belize Bank. Another one is Heritage Bank. You'll hear about them quite a bit, but I would say these are the top two in the country where you will tend to find the most number of ATM machines. And speaking of ATM machines, it is safe to use your debit card at the ATM machines. I know some people get a little weary about when they go to another country and they're just not sure or certain, but it does tend to be safe. Not good, of course. I don't want to jinx anything, but does tend to be safe here in the country. All right, the next bank that you see there on the screen is Key International Bank. Now, this is an international bank, which means that they don't deal with Belize dollars. And in order to be a client of Key International Bank, you cannot be a local. You have to be a foreigner. And so this is really important because if you're thinking about getting a bank account, you do need to have a foreign status. You cannot be a Belizean to open up an international bank account at Key Bank. Now, Key Bank primarily deals in US dollars, but they also have euro. They have a few different currencies, about £5, about five different currencies that they deal in. Key Bank tends to be more popular for people who are looking to have money in other countries, diversification, plan B set up. they tend to open up a bank account in Belize under Key Bank because they're not dealing with Belize dollars at that bank. So if you want like an ATM or debit card, Key Bank is not the right bank for you. You'd be wanting to go to Atlantic Bank or Belize Bank. Key Bank is actually the only international bank here in the country that will consider financing for foreigners. Their rates tend to be higher, and I know the process is a lot longer and a little bit more complicated, so not as many people use them, but I can always send you information if you would like to learn more about what that process looks like. I know typically their terms are 50% down, 11% interest, and a 10-year term. But I'm giving you the terms as of July 2024. It could be different when you are listening to this. So going back for a second to the local bank accounts, if you are living here, if you own real estate here, if you're conducting business here, it does tend to be easier to open a bank account, especially if you have status, if you have your residency, if you have a work permit, if you have citizenship. Of course, it is easier to open a bank account here. If you are a foreigner and you don't have any sort of status here, you don't have a social security card in the country, what you're going to need to do is get two bank reference letters, original copies with wet signatures on them from banks that you've banked with at home, essentially confirming that you are a client of theirs, you've been a client of theirs for X amount of years. I think it needs to be more than 2 years you've been a client with them, and really attesting that you are in good standing with them, and you're not in debt or anything along those lines. If you are, you'll also need central bank approval. So that's Central Bank of Belize. Typically, the bank will do that for you on your behalf, but you will need to get central bank approval. And then also, if you're an American, they will have you fill out a FATCA form. That's a Foreign Act Tax Compliance form. So you will need to fill that out. They'll do that there in the bank with you. So again, that's just a few of the requirements, a lot more. I'm happy to send those to you, or you can go to any of their websites and take a look at it. And for Atlantic Bank and Belize Bank, you do need to physically be here in person to do it. And it's not a quick process. I joke, but not really joke when I'm with clients that, or that I'm supposed to talk to clients that day. So I'm supposed to get out of the bank at this time, but we'll see. We'll see what time I actually get out. And it's just the reality of living here in Belize. Key Bank, you can tend to do a lot of opening a bank account from abroad. You will have to mail your hard copy documents to the country. So do bear that in mind. And then people, of course, like to make a visit anyway to get to know their bankers and get to see Belize. So those are 3 options for you. Now, pick whichever one works best for you. If it even makes sense for you to have a bank account here, but typically a lot of management companies, they'll tend to have access to US dollars, so they can always pay you in US dollars. And that's also an important question for you to ask when you are looking at management companies here. If you do have rental properties, how will I get paid? So again, just some things to think about. We've talked about this in some other sessions too. I'll link any of the other sessions in the description below. And in the meantime, if you are new to the real estate industry here and you are trying to navigate your way around, I understand there's a lot of information out there. Just reach out to me. We have tons of resource guides. info@lunarealtybelize.com is what gets to me directly. We'll make sure you have this buyer's guide, and then anything else that I think would be important for you during your journey. Well, thank you everyone so much for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you here in person. Bye-bye.